Welcome back. The Fishrot scandal and its significant human rights impacts is the second research paper that will be launched tomorrow by the IPPR. Tonight we're joined by Esther Mbathera, a researcher who played a pivotal role in investigating this complex issue and will provide critical insight into how the scandal has affected the livelihoods and well-beings of many Namibians. Esther, good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Just to start with, I want you to briefly take us back to the key findings of the first report, and then you can follow up by what insights are expected in report 2.
Okay, basically what happened is that in March we launched our first report on the human rights impact of what the Fishrot scandal has done. And what we have done at the beginning then was to interview different individuals. Because you need to remember that the Fishrot scandal impacted those that worked for NAMSOF, a fishing company, because they were the first ones to be impacted. Because what happened is that at that time that the quota that was given to Bidvest at the time, because it was the only company one of the companies that was catching horse mackerel, freezer horse mackerel, because nobody really wanted to catch the horse mackerel. It had no value at the time. But then the minister at the time, Minister of Fisheries, Bernard Esau, then saw, when he saw, because their finances were public, and he saw, wow, these guys actually are making me a killing in the horse mackerel industry, because they were selling the fish to the DRC, to Zambia, and to Nigeria. So they were the first victims, together with Erongo Marine, who was also catching horse mackerel at the time. So these companies had to lay off their people because now their quotas was cut. And then the second group was then the Samhere, the Icelandic group, the workers that worked on the vessels for Icelandic vessels, which is now your Highnasty vessels, your Saga, your Geyser. Now what happened at the time is that these people were, especially the ones of Samhere, they were caught off guard. Some were even on leave. Some were they just came in, docked the vessel, and then thought they were quickly going into town to do a few things, just to get a call that says, no, come and fetch your stuff, the vessel is leaving. Others were told in the morning the vessel actually left. So there was no time to prepare for anything else. So all of this actually impacted on their lives. So in the first report, we actually spoke to them to just get their testimonies as to what exactly, how are they impacted. Because remember, when we speak about corruption often, there is no real tangible evidence as to show who are the affected people within the corrupt activity. So we will see that we have many reports of corruption going on, but we don't show the victims of corruption. So in this case, it was to go into the victims of corruption, and it's actually one of the very first reports or research that was done globally to show victims of corruption, because often victims are not shown. You just see a company closed down.
You know that there's impact, you don't know where, you don't know how.
Yeah, you don't know what happened to the people that were working there. So in that first report, we looked into the issues that they were going through. We saw a lot of psychosocial issues that they were going through. There's a lot of them still living in Walvis Bay, wandering the street every day, hoping that one day the vessels will just come back and they will get their jobs back. There are those that have relocated to the villages because there is no hope in staying in Walvis Bay, because look, the ocean is also, it's another beast of its own. At the moment, we saw the latest figures of the total allowable catch on hake. It was already cut. Horse mackerel has been cut in the past few years because there is no fish. So, and if there's no fish, you can't just take the boats and take them to the ocean. So basically, the first report was to look into the issues that they were going through and how they are surviving. Yeah.
And what was your angle and focus for the second report?
Now, the second report was to get the data, to see on the issues, to look into their economic status, but also with data. So we had a specific targeted group that we looked at. We interviewed about 120 of them. We also went to the villages to see for ourselves in what conditions they are living in. We were looking into questions of how were you surviving, or what was life like before the whole Fishrot scandal? What did you do within your community to get that evidence? Because before, everybody will say, yes, I was looking after 30 people, I was looking after 3 households, I was looking after this. But this time around was to really go deep and to find out, what were you spending the money on? How has this whole Fishrot scandal impacted you as a human being, your relationships within your community, within your families? I mean, these guys were looked upon because, I mean, you come from sea, you've got a box of fish, you have money because probably if you've stayed at the sea for 2 or 3 months, you have a whole salary of more than 40, 30,000 to spend. And so now all of that is just gone. So when we look at also, we went to speak to their children. We also spoke to their wives, where we met a couple, because I had the opportunity to go and interview those up north that are now in villages, where where I met a couple of women that are going through abuse, and they're stuck in these relationships at the moment also because the kids are saying, just hang on. And some of them are women that came from Angola and married to the Namibian men. So these are the many issues that we actually picked up now when we went physically to them. But
how does the impact, sorry Esther to interrupt you, how does the impact of, the Fishrot scandal infringe, upon someone's human rights? How does it become a human rights focus? Just explain that to us.
Look, the whole thing is that when you were working, you had certain privileges that you could access to. Now your human rights aspects that are also taken away is your right to dignity is taken away because these people are going through hell. You have people that they're literally even called Fishrot. They don't have names anymore. They are called Fishrot. Their children are called Fishrot. And that impacts your dignity as a human being. When you were able to have an income to be able to access basic things like even water, because water you have to pay for it, electricity you have to pay for it, transport, all of these things. Now many of them cannot even access that. I've met one guy who's now the head of the household because his siblings have passed away. They left, there's about 9 or 10 kids in the house. His mother passed away now in February, and he's the breadwinner. And he's now living on the governmental employment redress program income, which is a grant of 4,000 a month. And he has to feed that whole household. We had one who was found at the border post with his baby. And the baby, because they were coming for the hospital, the baby died in his hands while they were waiting for a transport. And eventually he still had to beg somebody to help him carry that body to Utapi, to the next mortuary. And it's all of these things that these guys are really going through because now he even had to beg because he didn't have money. Yeah.
What further revelations are expected in the second report? You've mentioned, of course, there was collection of data, but what else?
The further revelation throughout this program, actually, the second report is, besides data, it's also more stories of the stories that we didn't cover in the previous report. Right. Like I'm telling you now, the stories of the guy, there was one guy who actually had to build a whole complex in his village where there was even meant to be a small room for NAMPOST so that pension payouts can be done there or people can get their money through NAMPOST at the shopping complex that he built. It's in Omontere, in the middle of nowhere. I went to that place. It's in the middle of nowhere. There was no network. There's no electricity. And he was bringing these services to his people. Now that is all stalled. Then there's the other guy who had brought water to 2 households of elderly people. And these are stories that were never told because these are the impact that the fishing industry had on the communities because it wasn't just about salaries, it's how further the salaries went. Now you find that also businesses have collapsed because these guys no longer send money home. There's no more money to spend. That's the impact that this whole scandal has on the villages as well. And even on Walvis Bay itself. If you go to Walvis Bay, they will tell you that now you can go to a barber because there's very few people working. You can negotiate the price. You can go to a hairdresser and the hairdresser can literally accept the $20 as opposed to 150 that they will normally accept. Those are some of the things that are coming out through now.
How has government and the public's response to the findings of the first report influenced the direction and focus of the second report that you did?
Look, we weren't really looking into the focus of how the public is perceiving the first report. It was going through stages because the plan was, let's first get the human impact stories and then let's get the numbers, the data. So what is it that what is the percentage of these guys, so it wasn't really based on how the government perceived it and so on, because look, the government is also having a case that is now ongoing. So and our report is not based on influencing the outcome of this. It is to document the impact of corruption, which is hardly documented, and actually the impact on the victims. Yeah.
When and where will the report be available to the public? I'm sure everybody would like to get their eyes on it.
Yeah, no, we're launching the report tomorrow at 6 o'clock. So people can follow us live on the IPPR Facebook page. We will be streaming live from there. And then the report will also be loaded onto the IPPR website, where everybody can download it then from.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
But also, we're not intentional about this, but I just actually found out that it's going to be 5 years since the scandal broke, because the scandal broke first time on the 13th of November in 2019. Yes. Yeah, but it wasn't on purpose that we are launching the program, this report now, because initially we were planning to launch it on the 7th of October.
Well, Esther, we do appreciate your time here with us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Nina.
When we come back, we continue with conversation